Ladies and gentlemen, hello, it's Garth here, Garth Spears. We're going to be talking about the psychology of charisma part 2. And we're focusing on how charisma depends on language. That means we'll be talking about this first row here, the top row, and starting off with how expressiveness is communicated at the level of information called language. Well, there are two elements to this. But first, let me squeeze out some space here. That's a bit better. Okay. Two main elements. There's words and the structure of words. And the message in the bottle, to me, sums it all up. Because the message itself, written on the bit of paper in the bottle, that refers to the words, and the bottle itself is the structure of the words. There are other things, for example, logic and rules of grammar, fluency. I mean, if you don't know the rules of grammar, then you just got to learn them. And logic, same thing. If you suffer from some fluency problems, then you're in good company, because George VI, King George VI, he suffered from that too. Have you seen that wonderful film called The King's Speech? Well, he was cured by specialist help, and on the website you'll find links to professionals who can help you on that. That's about it, apart from accent. And people often say, accent, what about my accent? I don't like my accent. First of all, accent, we'll talk about that in the next video, because that's to do with the context. But frankly, people's accent actually nowadays, it can be a real advantage, and we'll say something about that in the next video. Okay, so words, ladies and gentlemen, words. Well, for the last 2 or 3 years, I have been astonished. I've been amazed, because there are people, specialists, communication specialists going around the world telling people that words are not important. Words are not important. That's nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. They say words are only 7% of the impact that you make. Well, it's rubbish. And this has all come about by a misunderstanding of this gentleman. This is Professor Mehrabian. He's the professor of psychology at UCLA, so somebody we should take note of, right? And what he said was, about 40 years ago, he was making some research into how we can tell what people are feeling. And his research concluded this, that if you want to know what people are feeling, then what you pay attention to is not their words, because that's only about 7% of the impact. He said you pay attention to the sound of the voice, the quality of the voice, facial expressions, body language, this kind of thing. For example, I mean, if I was, this is me in my car, okay, not a great car, but here I am, I've stopped, I'm lost, I'm seeking directions. So I ask somebody and I listen, of course, I'm listening to the words. I don't listen to their body language. That won't tell me how to get there. On the other hand, it's not so cut and dried, because let's say he was telling me how to get there and I could smell some whiskey on the breath, or maybe his speech was slurred, then I would start to think, well, maybe I shouldn't trust this person, and I'll go on and I'll ask somebody else. So, ladies and gentlemen, words give information about the topic. In this case, it's, how to get from A to B. And body language won't tell you that. But what body language will do, it'll give you information about people's feelings and about their personality factors. Things like, do I trust this person? Are they credible? Do I like them? Are they somebody I can respect? And so on. So there are two kinds of information that we get from from the words to do with the topic and from information to do with body language. That comes under emotions, and we'll be talking about that in video number 4. So let's move on now to the structures of language. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you an example. Here's a salesman, and he's trying to sell us something. And what's he focusing on? He's actually focusing on the structures of his words. He's focusing on how he's going to handle our objections and how he's going to close the sale and how he's going to relax us and make us feel he's a competent and somebody we can trust. So all this comes down to him learning structures, and salesmen spend their whole career learning these structures. Another example might be from literature and poetry. I mean, the beauty of literature and poetry all comes from the structures of the words. For example, I mean, Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer these slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of trouble and by opposing end them. I mean, he could have said, I'm wondering whether I should fight or run away. I mean, who's going to remember that? Nobody. But to be or not to be, that has stayed around for centuries because of the structures of the words. And we've got on the website, you'll find a lot of videos to do with even larger structures. How do you make an impact with your structures? Well, there are 3 elements to this. There's the logic, the drama of it all, and the emotional expressiveness of it all. I'll be saying more about that on the website, and we'll touch upon it later on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on now to awareness. So we're now looking at how awareness is communicated at level of language. So in terms of awareness, what we're really talking about is, can we pick up the return messages coming back from people? And that refers to our sensory acuity. So, for example, it's really, the image for me is about the ear. So it's all about listening. And listening gives value. And that's so important for charisma. People think, oh, you talk. No, no, no. It's also about listening. Good listening. Why don't we listen well? Mainly because we're rehearsing our reply. We're rehearsing our reply, and we lose our attention on the person that we're in conversation with. Inner awareness refers to subjective states. So these are the positive, negative, and neutral inner subjective states that we have. And generally speaking, you know, when we have problems with our charisma, it's because inside us it's as though we've got some kind of inner critic that's sitting on our shoulder, blaring out words like, you know, sit down and shut up and don't make a fool of yourself and don't show off, all these kind of things. We've got to get rid of those, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to get rid of those words in our head and change them into something a little bit more positive, like about gorgeous, talented, fabulous. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on now, a little bit more space into flexible. So how is flexibility communicated at the level of language? Well, it's all about, can I change my words in order to get my point across to people? And that comes down really to getting rid of jargon. Being tactful sometimes, or diplomatic, and silence as well. tact and diplomacy, slightly different. Tact is about saying kind things to people. And diplomacy is more about being careful about what you say in case you get into trouble. Whereas silence, that's a very important thing. Silence really comes down to the power of the pause. And I'll be saying a lot about that in the videos on the website. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that almost finishes this. I just want to leave you with this wonderful picture of the ballet dancer. For me, this sums up flexibility. It's the freedom to say what you want and yet control to say what is right and what is appropriate. And that theme continues down the whole column of flexibility. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. That sums up how the abilities of expressiveness, awareness and flexibility are communicated at the level of language. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll hope to talk to you on the next video, video number 3, referring to context. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.